Charlie just stole $2 million.
You look like the cat that swallowed the canary.
But between the partner he can't trust...
Don't go squirrely on me now. Stick to the plan. Don't poke.
The woman he can't resist...
Does it mean you're rich, Charlie?
The friend he can't avoid...
Ho, ho, ho!
And the mobster he's trying to escape.
Anybody but a lawyer would consider the consequences.
Getting out of town will be slippery.
Going somewhere, Mr. Argos?
The Ice Harvest. Rated R.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie, and a very Christmassy Do You Even Movie for a change of pace from the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes. I am, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, Double D, David Denoyer.
Greetings, happy holidays again.
Well, okay, so you just erased Christmas, just like you didn't dress Christmassy. Now you won't even say the word.
God.
For those who are listening, I just realized that sounds bizarre. Dave is wearing a Santa hat.
Yes, I am.
With a chrome skull on the front.
Yes, I
in
am.
celebration of the film Chrome Skull.
Chrome Skull laid to rest too.
Well, you would know that, wouldn't
I would
you?
know
Because of that. And your T-shirt, which has some kind of a mutant.
It's a bumble.
It's
Bubbles bounce.
It's a what?
Bumble. Snow Bumble from Rudolph.
Oh, okay. I thought it was an abominable snowman.
Nope, it's a Bumble.
Oh.
Bumbles bounce.
I am sorry that I asked. So, I hope everybody is doing very, very well and having a good holiday season so far. Dave and I just had a little excursion to the movie theatre.
We did, and it's actually been 3 excursions this week because we opened it by seeing the 4K transfer of Black Christmas.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah. Because AGFA and Shout took it out this past week for the 50th anniversary of Black Christmas and had 2 showtimes for it. Really, oh man, it was so much fun seeing that movie on the big screen finally.
It was very cool to see it on the very large movie theater screen. And it was just cool because there aren't a lot of, this year I haven't noticed a ton of exciting Christmas revival screenings.
No, haven't really seen any,
Yeah, I haven't seen like Scrooged or anything being taunted. Traipsed around.
I know Nightmare Before Christmas is back, and I
feel like that's always
back. Always back,
yeah.
But I think that and I feel like A Christmas Story, if not a Christmas Vacation, is doing some stuff right now too.
I think Christmas Vacation has been taken around a bit
because I'm actually seeing it Tuesday.
Oh well, then that would make sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's at my local theater in Troy.
Oh right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, just abandoning your buddy on.
We're going the next day.
Yeah, are we?
I thought so. That's what the plan said.
Well, but today we went and finally caught Red One.
Yes.
The new Christmas action comedy starring J.K. Simmons, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and
Chris Evans. Lucy Liu. A bunch of people.
Those 3 star in it.
Yeah. Well, Lucy Liu's in it a good amount.
A decent amount. But just about as much as J.K. Simmons is in it. But Simmons plays Santa.
Not realize how much in my life I needed a J.K. Simmons Santa movie until seeing it today.
Fair enough. No, he plays Santa pretty well. I mean, he'll never top, for me, Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson and Fat Man. Yeah.
Because that's my favorite Santa Claus depiction of all time.
But going in with Fat Man, I will say, in comparison to Red One, I realized also how much I love North Pole world building. Like, there's so many variations of it, from like the Christmas Chronicles to the Fat Man to Red One. I just love the North Pole world building that they do in some of these movies.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously was probably my favorite part of Red One.
Yeah.
I mentioned when we were watching it that it was kind of like Christmas Men in Black, because there was a very big focus on technology with an underpinning of magic.
Yeah.
And a lot about the secrecy, the technology of secrecy. One of the first things you learn as the film is starting is that the North Pole facilities are behind a kind of cloaking device, so that it can't be seen when people are traveling. They call it the dome, which reminds me very much of kind of a Men in the Black kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when they go to a toy store and he takes them to the back room and they go through a teleportation portal and he's just like, how are we here now? And he just goes, toy stores.
Toy stores.
And he's like, I'm going to need more info than that, as he's just walking away. So, and The Rock plays basically Santa's #1 security guard. Santa gets kidnapped, and then we get a wild romp through all kinds of Christmas mythology. Krampus makes an appearance. It is really
so much
a
fun.
lot of fun.
It was so much fun, and you and I both were, we'd seen trailers of it because we go to the movies as often as we do. And I just didn't feel like the trailers were grabbing me, but like literally within like the first 10 minutes of sitting down in that theater today, I knew we were in for a treat.
Well, we caught it in a crowded theater full of families too, which is weird because the box office hasn't been that good, but we went in the middle of the day on a Saturday and it was packed.
Nearly sold out, I think you said.
Well, no, it was nearly sold out.
Yeah.
When I got our tickets, the entire front row was available, and when we got there, I don't think there was any seats available.
I think
in the
there was
front row.
one next to me because the girl was laying across it.
Well, she didn't want to be close to you.
That's fair.
I think it's the fairest decision there is. So, but no, Red One, super fun. A little spicy on the PG-13 scale.
A lot of language,
but
and
a lot of
scares.
Yeah, but a lot. Well, what, you new to Christmas?
Scary images. My apologies.
Again,
not scares.
Are you new to Christmas?
No, I just fair.
It's a ghost holiday.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was really fun. Highly recommend folks go and check it out if you like that kind of big budget action movie, but with a massive Christmas twist.
Yeah.
I had a great time the entire time.
I think it was worth it alone just to see the scenes between The Rock and J.K. Simmons in the beginning talking about Christmas and the meaning to each other. Like, that was so heartfelt and so beautiful.
It was pretty damn good. Well, it pretty much establishes the entire plot.
No, absolutely does. So yeah, Red One, we definitely would give a big thumbs up to for sure.
Yes, definitely a great film.
So the other one we saw, which happened just to be starting like 3 minutes after Red One had ended.
Yeah, we were sitting there as the credits were rolling, and it was 4:51 p.m.
Yeah.
And then you picked up your phone and went, hey, Y2K is showing at 4:55.
That is correct.
So I was like, so then I went, huh? And then a minute later, I was like, I bought our tickets.
Yeah.
So we went and saw Y2K, which at the time we're recording this is the opening weekend.
Opening weekend, yep. Yeah, and Y2K, for those who aren't aware, is basically the story of it is 1999. We're shifting into the year 2000, and then at 2000, all the electronics go online to basically not end humanity. We kind of think it does, but...
Well, no, the goal is to annihilate humanity.
Annihilate humans and also make us their servants, yeah.
Oh, not servants. They were using us as batteries.
Vessels.
Until we die.
Yeah.
So kind of borrowing from the Matrix, actually, a little bit.
It was basically Maximum Overdrive meets Can't Hardly Wait is how I described it.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Fred Durst is in it and has a bigger role than many would expect.
Well, no. Fred Durst is in it as Fred Durst.
Fred Durst.
That is the point that needs to be mentioned.
Yeah.
It made me feel older than dirt because they're constantly nostalgia mining the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
The only positive is all the kids are supposed to be seniors in high school in 1999, which thank goodness makes them a solid 6 or 7 years older than I would be. So they were a lot more Gen X, which made me feel vaguely less old. Although there's a part where Fred Durst starts singing
Faith.
Faith.
Yeah.
And as he's doing it, you leaned over to me and you were like, I think Limp Bizkit actually covered Faith. And I looked at you, I was like, yeah. It was like a charting song.
Yeah.
I was there.
I caught on to him late after that.
Well, David, you were born in 1992.
Yeah, and Nookie was my introduction to Limp Bizkit.
Well, yeah, but also it was probably not when it was brand spanking new.
No, of course not.
Yeah, that's kind of my point is in 1999, I was like 13, 12, 13.
Yeah.
So I would hear Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
I watched MTV.
I also watched MTV.
My sciatic, when you were 7?
Oh, yeah. My babysitter loved it.
That explains all your problems.
I'm sure it does, yeah. No, my sister and I grew up watching TRL at our babysitter's house.
That ruined you kids.
Yeah, I don't think it did.
So, but no, it was fun. I from the trailers did not realize it was a comedy.
Yeah, straight up horror comedy.
I thought it was a horror movie that was like a little funny.
Yeah.
So that was the only part I was a little disappointed by. you can love horror comedies all you want. They're just not generally my jam.
Well, they lean, I think, in regards to Y2K, it leans heavier into the nostalgia than it does kind of storytelling, and because it felt like a lot of things just started happening towards the end.
Well, one of my biggest problems with most horror comedies, if I want to get into the weeds on this a little bit, is a lot of horror comedies still try to tell an interesting story and still try to draw you in, which is good. But then they do things like give you a character you're supposed to care about, but then kill them in a silly way.
Yeah.
And for me, and again, you can like that. For me, it kind of like splits me, because then I'm like, I'm supposed to laugh at them dying, but you just made me
care
not
about
want them to die.
Yeah. Which happened multiple times in Y2K, I would say.
It happened a lot to me.
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments where there was one moment where a certain character decides to fight this robot, and it's very clear he's going to die.
Oh, yeah.
And
no
none
doubt.
of his friends even go, "What are you doing? Don't do it." They just watch him get...
As he swallows a bunch of drugs and then goes into fight mode.
And they watch him just literally, like, basically charge up and then just get slaughtered without any effort of the
None whatsoever.
And so stuff like that kind of throws me. It's why like a movie like Shaun of the Dead works great for me. I'm not even a huge Shaun of the Dead fan, but it's a great example of a horror comedy. Very, very funny.
Is your favorite Hot Fuzz out of the three?
Oh yeah, Hot Fuzz. I think
is fantastic.
Hot Fuzz is an excellent film.
It was last year that I actually revisited The World's End and really liked it, because the first time I saw it, I wasn't a big fan of it. On a second watch, really enjoyed that movie.
Sure. And yeah, so not trying to poo-poo horror comedies.
No.
I think one of my favorite which isn't that recent, but one of my favorite more recent horror comedies is Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, of course.
They did that phenomenally well.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes you get a horror comedy and either they make it so silly there's nothing to really worry about.
Yeah.
Which, when there's no suspense, it's a little hard to be in. Or they do what Y2K did quite a bit, which is give you serious characters you're worried about, but then kill them in a goofy way.
Yeah.
And that was the problem I had with that. Did you ever watch that Killer Jack-o'-lantern movie on Hulu?
God, not Gourds. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but no, I didn't get around to it, unfortunately.
One of my biggest complaints with that was that they played some death scenes for laughs after they like worked really hard to make you feel like those characters were human.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm supposed to laugh at that guy's severed head. You just told me like how he loved his mother and was going to get married, and then I'm supposed to laugh at his severed head. I maybe I'm too old. In fact, I guarantee it.
I don't know.
But I didn't hate Y2K. It had a lot of fun stuff to enjoy. I thought most of the characters were pretty solid.
Yeah.
The nostalgia was so plentiful that
singing so many 90s jams the entire time.
It made me groan eventually because it was so much, so constant.
Yeah.
But it was a cool element. It was fun. Sometimes it felt there were scenes where it felt like a Saturday Night Live skit.
No, it absolutely did.
But then it just kept going.
Yeah.
So,
and you only caught one inaccuracy, which was the camera that she had at the end.
That was the only one that was glaring.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't trying to they didn't have that in 1999. But at the end, a character picks up a new camcorder to her. And I owned that exact camcorder. It was the first professional video camera I ever bought.
Yeah.
It was a Canon GL2. That came out in 03 or 04 because I bought it when it was relatively new.
Yeah.
The GL1 was the camera that might have been available in 99.
Fair.
And unfortunately, they look very different.
Very different.
The GL1 was like a little bit more rickety and clunky looking, and the GL2 was very sleek and smoothed out. But I shot my first feature film on that exact camera. So I was like, there were no GL2s. In 1999.
For those unaware, one of the best things about watching movies with Henrique is
it the best?
Sometimes he loves to point out when the improper microphones and or cameras are used in films that are either period pieces or meant to be in a specific point.
So I Googled it. So I'm still right.
Yeah.
But the GL2 actually came out in 2001. So it was less
close-ish,
new than I thought.
Yeah.
But that means the GL1 was definitely available in that time frame. I still have it. It doesn't
the exact camera. You're absolutely right.
It doesn't function anymore, but I still have it somewhere.
Hell yeah. It's not behind us?
Actually, no. But it will end up out here someday.
Fair.
But yeah, I mean, I knew that camera backwards and forwards. I shot I shot a feature on it. I shot dozens of shorts, music videos, commercials, everything. It was the first professional camcorder I ever owned. Because I could not afford the DVX 100, which was what everybody was getting, but it was $1,000 more.
Makes sense.
So I could not you're like, yeah, you were pretty poor.
No, I more so was saying $1,000 more. Cameras are expensive.
Well, they barely gotten more expensive. They actually have gotten cheaper in general.
Same with TVs. TVs have just gotten cheaper
TVs,
somehow.
That's not even a fair comparison. TVs have gotten obscenely cheaper.
Did you see that there's like is it a 90-inch that's like only $1,500 at Walmart right now?
It's probably not a 90-inch. It's probably an 80.
Okay, I thought it was either a 90 or a 100.
Well, because 90s require special delivery, special mounting, special everything.
I know. I
really
just know
huge.
it was a huge fucking TV.
Well, I don't doubt it. I didn't buy. I saw a 65-inch TV at Walmart. I think it was for like $380.
Yeah.
And it's 4K, all that crap. My 50-inch TV that's in my bedroom that I bought 10 years ago was like $700.
Oh my God.
When I bought it. And it wasn't even a name brand.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, technology is always trending down. I was actually thinking about that the other day because speaking of the first camera I ever filmed on, the first computer I ever edited on was $3,600.
Damn.
And it was not even the top of the line. That was just like what I could get. That was cheap. It was an educational Macintosh. It was discounted. It was an iMac, but it was labeled eMac. And now it's like, I just bought a souped up Mac Mini with all of it upgraded all the way, and it didn't even cross $2,200.
The first PC I ever edited on had Pinnacle on it as the editing software.
Yeah, the non-Mac people it was Pinnacle and it was Vegas.
Yeah, Pinnacle is what we had in high school for broadcast journalism.
Jeez. We didn't even have a video. When I was in school, we had to carve things into stone. And then you'd stamp it with a dinosaur.
Is that true?
Like a dinosaur bird?
Facts.
With
okay.
like, psh, and then Spacely sprockets.
Like, you ready to talk about today's movie by chance?
What movie?
This movie.
Folks, today, hold on. No. Don't hold on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anyone to hurt themselves.
Okay.
So please sit down.
Uh-huh.
Because this film is not from the 90s.
It is not. It is not from the 90s.
Now hold for them to catch their breath after they've fallen over.
Whoa. In fact, none of our movies left for this month are 90s films.
None of the two?
None of the two. None of the two. None, neither.
All of the next two.
All of the next two are not 90s.
So tonight's film is the 2005 neo-noir thriller that is highly underseen.
Oh my God, so much.
The Ice Harvest.
Yes, it is.
A film I believe you introduced me to.
Yeah, you had found it, and I had already seen it, which I'll get into in a second. But this was one that we rediscovered, probably about 5 years ago now?
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Somewhere in that, and it's just become. I think we revisited it last year with friends, and then we're doing it on the show this year. So I think we've watched it like the last 3 years in a row.
Well, having a feel-good Christmas movie to share with your friends is important.
You got to do what you got to do. So the Ice Harvest from 2005, 1 hour and 32 minutes, rated R for violence, language, and sexuality / nudity.
Why does it have to have any language at all?
Any language
Why
at all.
should they speak?
The director of the film is Mr. Harold Ramis. He, of course, is the director of Caddyshack in 1980, National Lampoon's Vacation. He was also a writer on Caddyshack, mind you. Also is the director of Club Paradise in 86, which he wrote on, Groundhog Day in 93, which he wrote, Stuart Saves His Family in 1995.
Well, the only one people remember.
Multiplicity in 96. He also directs Analyze This in 1999, which he writes on. The Bedazzled remake in 2000, which he's a writer on. Analyze That in 2002. The Ice Harvest, Atlanta, Year One, The Office. He was also a writer on Animal House, Meatballs, Stripes, SCTV, Ghostbusters, and Back to School, the Rodney Dangerfield movie.
Well, he's likely most famous for being Dr. Venkman.
Egon.
Or Egon, damn it. Yeah, Egon, on Ghostbusters.
That is correct, yes.
I think that's what most people will immediately remember. And then, of course, whether they know he directed it or not, Groundhog Day is probably his most famous directorial
One of his
effort.
big ones. Yeah, I would absolutely say.
I can't imagine any of the other ones are even half as famous.
No.
As far as directing.
Yeah.
He's written on dozens of like classic films.
Yeah.
But as far as directing, Groundhog Day was his big one. People still watch it all the time, ironically.
Yeah.
They watch it again and again, ironically enough. But no, Harold Ramis, hell of a filmmaker.
I always forget him as the dad. Is it Knocked Up, where he is? Oh God, I can't think of his name. Seth Rogen's dad, or is it This Is 40?
It wasn't This Is 40.
Okay.
He had passed by then.
It's either I think it is Knocked Up. I think he plays Seth Rogen's dad in Knocked Up, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I will say he unfortunately did leave us back in February 24th of 2014 from complications from an autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis, is what it says on the thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, he got very ill and passed away.
But I was so happy to, spoilers, see his return in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh, yeah, spoiling a 6-year-old movie now or something.
I mean, the sequel is out now, yes.
But no, he's a phenomenal filmmaker.
Yeah, he is the dad in Knocked Up.
Yeah, he was the father in Knocked Up.
Yeah, God, I always forget. I love that movie.
Yeah, it didn't connect with me when I first watched it, but the second time I watched it 4 years later, I loved it.
40-Year-Old Virgin took about 4 or 5 years to connect with me. Yeah. I watched both that and Knocked Up with my parents for the first time. And so then it took until I was in college for me to revisit because my roommate had a copy of it on DVD, and I revisited 40-Year-Old Virgin and fucking loved it.
You're a dork.
I don't know why. I mean,
I saw 40-Year-Old Virgin opening weekend.
I remember
in the
you
theater,
telling me this, yes.
And it changed my brain. I had never seen a movie that made me laugh so many times per minute.
Yeah.
As 40-Year-Old Virgin at that time.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of kind of the Judd Apatow effect on comedy films.
No matter how many times I see that movie, I always forget the ending credits with the Age of Aquarius.
Everyone forgets that.
So going back to The Ice Harvest, one of our writers on the film who wrote the novel is author Scott Phillips. He wrote Ice Harvest in 2000, The Walkaway in 2002, Cottonwood 2004, The Adjustment 2012, Rake in 2013, That Left Turn at Albuquerque in 2020, and most recently has a novel came out that is The Devil Raises His Own in 2024.
Wow.
He also, for screenplay, not only The Ice Harvest in 2005, but before that, wrote Crosscut in 1995, that mobster lumberjack movie that I brought up a while back.
Oh, okay. I mean, all roads lead back to something or other.
We also have 2 screenwriters on the film as well, starting with Robert Benton, who wrote Bonnie and Clyde in 1967. There was a Crooked Man in 1970. What's Up, Doc in 72. Oh, Calcutta in 72. Bad Company. It's a Bird. It's a Plane. It's Superman in 1975. The Late Show in 77, Superman in 78, Kramer versus Kramer, which he also directs on in 79. Still of the Night in 1982, which he's a director on. Places in the Heart in 84, which he's a director on. Nadine in 87, which he's also a director on. Nobody's Fool in 1994, which he's also the director on.
Which I recently discovered and fucking love Nobody's Fool.
And
phenomenal film.
Off of that, Twilight in 1998, which he's the director on, which is a noir I need to show you that you'll probably love. Then he does The Ice Harvest in 2005. Our third writer on the film is Richard Russo, who writes for episodes of Monsters in 1989. Nobody's Fool in 1994, Twilight in 98, The Flamingo Rising 2001, Brush with Fate 2003, Empire Falls TV series in 2005, The Ice Harvest in 2005, Keeping Mum in 2005, and Lucky Hank most recently in 2023.
Oh, wow. He's still working.
Yeah. Our cinematographer on the film is Alar Kivlo. He gets his start in 1982 with 984, Prisoner of the Future, Copper Mountain in 83. Cavilo?
Yeah, there's another I.
Cavilo. Okay, yep.
Sorry, You're fine. That's a harder name.
Da in 1988, Heads in 94, Avalanche in 94, Friends at Last in 95, Gotti, the good version, in 1996, Weapons of Mass Distraction in 97, A Simple Plan in 98. He's the cinematographer on.
Apparently he works well with Snow and Billy Bob Thornton.
Deep in My Heart in 99, Frequency in 2000, The Glass House in 2001.
I love that movie.
Me too. Heart's War in 2002, Normal, Aurora Borealis in 2005, The Ice Harvest in 2005, The Lake House in 2006.
Oh, okay.
The Lookout in 2007, Taking Chance in 2009, Year 9 in 2009, so he works with Ramis again. Blindside in 2009, Bad Teacher in 2011, The Lucky One 2012, The Choice, Story of a Girl, Napoli Ever After in 2018, The Broken Hearts Gallery, and Space Oddity in 2022.
Still working.
Yeah. Moving on down to our IMDb synopsis, it says, a shady lawyer attempts a Christmas Eve crime hoping to swindle the local mob out of some money, but his partner, a strip club owner, might have different plans for the cash.
That's pretty solid.
My synopsis says, a shady lawyer and his associates steal $2 million from a Kansas City mob boss on Christmas Eve, setting off a chain of events, leaving everyone to ask, who can you trust?
Which one's Boo? No, Dave.
Hey!
I think calling him a strip club owner, that alone, pretty weak.
Yeah.
The mob element's really important.
Yeah.
So, Dave, all right, that'll do, Pig.
I will take that. Taglines include thick thieves, thin ice.
I like that one.
And then the second one, 'twas the night before Christmas.
Focus features.
Focus features indeed.
That was the best you could. Okay.
The Ice Harvest is currently available to rent on Prime, Fandango at Home, or wherever you get your videos at. It is not currently streaming for free anywhere right now.
It's not streaming with a membership or with ads.
That is correct. Moving down to our cast, we have John Cusack, who plays Charlie Argalis in the film. He gets his start in Class in 1983, moves on to 16 Candles in 84, Grandview, USA, The Sure Thing, Better Off Dead in 1985, Stand By Me, One Crazy Summer, Broadcast News, Say Anything in 89, The Grifters, The Player in 1992.
Hey.
Money for Nothing in 93, Bullets Over Broadway, City Hall, Grosse Point Blank in 97, the same year he does Con Air. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil in 97 as well. The Thin Red Line, Being John Malkovich, High Fidelity, Adaptation where he plays himself.
I love Adaptation.
Adaptation's so good. Identity in 2003, Runaway Jury, The Ice Harvest, 1408, War Inc., 2012 and 2009, Hot Tub Time Machine in 2010, The Raven, Lee Daniels, The Butler in 2013, Drive Hard in 2014, Hot Tub Time Machine 2, Cell, Utopia, and most recently, Decoded in 2024.
Oh.
His resume is huge, by the way.
Well, there was a joke for a while, especially after that one Drive Hard.
Drive Hard, yeah.
That he had like gambling debts or something because he was just appearing in all these lower budget movies.
Which was done by, oh, damn it, what's his name that did Leprechaun 3 and 4? Brian Trencher Smith.
Brian Trencher Smith.
He directed Drive Hard. Drive Hard's fun. Sam and Thomas Jane.
It actually is really fun.
Like a Collateral kind of thing almost. Billy Bob Thornton, also on the cast, who plays Vic Kavanaugh. He gets his start in 1986 with Hunter's Blood, Going Overboard in 89, Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town in 1989.
The only one that matters.
The Dark Backwards in 91, One False Move in 91, Knots Landing, Trouble Bound, Blood In, Blood Out, Bound by Honor in 93, Indecent Proposal, Tombstone, On Deadly Ground, which he is great in On Deadly Ground.
Yeah, no, he is worth spotting in that film.
Dead Man in 95, Sling Blade in 96, Ellen, U-Turn, Primary Colors, Armageddon, A Simple Plan, The Man Who Wasn't There, Bandits, Monsters Ball in 2001, Waking Up in Reno in 2002, which I'm dying to see. It's him and Patrick Swayze in a polyamorous story, apparently.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm interested.
Intolerable Cruelty in 2003, Love Actually, Bad Santa, The Alamo, Friday Night Lights, Bad News Bears remake, which is the same year as The Ice Harvest. Then he does School for Scoundrels in 2006, which I saw in theaters.
Oh, look at you.
And Mr. Woodcock in 2007, followed by Eagle Eye, Faster, The Baytown Outlaws, Parkland, The Judge in 2014, the Entourage movie, Our Brand is Crisis, Bad Santa 2, Fargo TV series, which I cannot recommend enough, especially his first season's really good. They're all good, but the first season's really good.
Yeah, his character is insane in Fargo season 1. Very, very good.
Also recommended Goliath in 2016, The Gray Man in 2022, and most recently is on Landman 2024 this year.
Which I've been watching, and I like it quite a bit. That's on Paramount Plus.
Gotta check that out. Wrapping up our cast is Connie Nielsen, who plays Renata Crest in the film. She gets her start in 1995 in the Arcadia music video for Election Day, goes on to be in Voyage in 93, The Devil's Advocate in 97, Permanent Midnight, Rushmore, Soldier, Mission to Mars, Gladiator, 1 Hour Photo, Demon Lover, The Hunted in 2003, Basic in 2003, Return to Cinder, does The Ice Harvest in 2005, followed by Law & Order SVU, A Shine of Rainbows, Perfect Sense, Boss, Nymphomaniac Volume 1, 3 Days to Kill, The Following, The Good Wife, Stratton, Wonder Woman, Justice League, FBI, I Am the Night, Sea Fever, Wonder Woman 1984, Nobody, which she played his wife in.
Oh, okay,
yep.
Yeah.
Ocean Deep in 2023, Roleplay in 2024, and most recently in Gladiator 2, 2024.
Hey, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either. Very curious, but not that curious.
Harsh but fair.
So what was your first time seeing The Ice Harvest?
It was a few years back when I guess I do remember, I think I found it on like one of those lists of Christmas time
You
movies.
rented it on Prime, I want to say.
Yeah. And I remember we put it on, and you had seen it before, but I don't know how long it had been.
Probably about a decade.
But it was fun. I was most impressed by Cusack's depiction. I felt like he was cast perfectly.
Yeah.
Because Cusack's thing is kind of this oddly disinterested, but actually interested. I don't know how else to describe it. He's very 90s slacker.
Yeah.
Even as he's gotten much older, he just has this way about him. But I thought the combination of him and Billy Bob Thornton is great.
Yeah.
But the combination of him and Oliver Platt
yeah.
is exquisite.
So good.
Because their styles could not be further apart.
Yeah.
Because where Cusack is somewhat detached, Oliver Platt plays his characters like not only are they real and exist in the world of the film, but he's also like partially on fire.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, he's so over the top, but in a believable way.
There's multiple scenes in the film where he gets hurt, and I think he deserves it every single time.
Oh, yeah. I think the greatest role I've ever seen Oliver Platt in is in the TV series Huff.
I liked him in The Big C.
Well, I've not seen that one, but I will say, but I remember when I saw him in Huff, I was like, you know why he's perfect? Because I think that if let's say there was a gun to your head, you had to typecast Oliver Platt, even though I don't think he deserves to be typecast.
Yeah.
But you were like, what is he born to play? Coked up lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what he plays in Huff.
He's also really good in The Bear.
Oh, yeah,
He's the uncle, right?
Oh, yeah, he's great in it.
No, he's
he's a great actor.
Oh, yeah.
But I felt like, especially the younger era Oliver Platt, Coked Up Lawyer is like, he's like built for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's just of that overbearingness, but he's not stupid.
No.
But he's not smart either.
No.
like he really balances it beautifully.
He really does.
Every scene that he and Cusack are in is gold.
So good.
So I think that was what stood out the most. And then, of course, the fact that, I mean, talk about just as neo-noir as you can get.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, we were talking about this a little bit when we were watching it earlier. It's not like a lot of films that are kind of neo-noir are kind of a noir farce.
Yeah.
They kind of take the cliches of noir and then play with them and it's a comedy. It's played for laughs. Like The Nice Guys. I love The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
But to me, it's not really a noir.
Yeah.
It plays in the idea of a noir.
Would agree.
I think that even with The Ice Harvest being funny, having a great sense of humor, having a lot of modern touches, it's noir to its bones.
Oh, 100%.
It is so noir. You can tell that Ramis must have sat in a room with like a bunch of VHS tapes and just forced himself to watch a ton of old movies.
I can see that.
I love it. I really was blown away by it. And you know, it's ending, the ending that we got in the official release.
We'll talk about the other ones.
Is happy enough that it's not like watching The War at Home at Thanksgiving.
I was literally just getting ready to say that. Yeah.
Where it's a phenomenal movie, but the ending is so sad. You do leave it with like okay.
Yeah.
I think I want to watch Charlie Brown now. You know? So that's my opinion. What about you?
So I rented The Ice Harvest at my local library probably when I was 14 or 15. Could have been older than that. And it was in that period to where I rented a lot of stuff from the library because, for one, they didn't care our ratings or anything like that. So a kid who was of that age could get those movies super easy.
At the library? Jeez.
Yeah, they didn't check for shit. Especially if I went for the old VHSs, which I did a lot, they did not give a shit because they were just like, oh, yeah, kid's getting VHS tapes, he can have whatever he wants. So I took it home and watched it. I was surprised by how dark the film was.
Yeah, I could barely see it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
How dark the film was, but also how good it was. The multiple twists and the turns that you have going on, plus just an ongoing streak of bad luck for Cusack's character.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, it can't get any worse. Oh, it did. So it was one that I remember enjoying, but then you and I rediscovered it several years back, and since then it has been in my December rotation, like I said, for like the last 3-4 years now.
Right. And I like it in the December rotation because remember how I was talking about like the Christmassy rating?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a solid 6.5.
Yeah, 6.
Because while it's not the most Christmassy movie, it's a major plot point consistently that it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like Merry Christmas. There's a lot of like, I should be watching my kids open presents. There's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So Christmas is not inconsequential. In fact, I'd give it a 7 actually.
7? Okay.
Because if Christmas wasn't there, there'd be a lot missing.
Okay.
Like the family dinner that they bump into, and the Christmas tree and the presents and the fact that there's almost nobody around a lot of the time, and all of that plays into the fact that it's Christmas Eve.
It does.
But you know, like I've said, you can't really get past an 8 unless the movie is literally like about Santa Claus or about like getting a gift to a child or something. You know, beyond that, if you know, you can only get so Christmassy.
I mean,
but
even
it's up there.
The strip clubs are decorated for Christmas. There's that.
Yeah, it's very festive.
So, you ready to get into the movie?
Why the hell not?
All right, so we open with a shot of Charlie as we hear a voiceover as we see him standing out in a field, and he's saying, people always say there's no such thing as the perfect crime, but I don't agree with that. He then goes on to tell us that the keys to performing the perfect crime are to be calm and collected, and we also hear him share that he has also just now stolen $2 million from the mob.
Which, fucking Mondays, right?
Yeah, So we see him handed a case at what looks like a bank. Somebody shakes his hand, and we cut to our credits, which begin over the shot, various shots of a nativity scene as rain begins to fall, and we also see that the rain is a little cold and, may go into the title of the ice harvest. Who knows?
Well, I can't say for sure.
So Charlie joins his partner Vic in the car with a case full of money, stating it's over $2 million. They've got it all, and Charlie says, he's like, I can't believe we're actually going to do this, and Vic says, oh, we're not doing this. It's done. And that's when he reminds him that it's already done. And by this point, we're starting to see that a heavy rain is coming down. It's a cold afternoon, and Vic goes to drop Charlie off. Charlie then goes to grab the bag of money, and Vic's like, oh, did you want it? And he's like, oh, if you want to hang on to it. He's like, oh, well, if you think you're better at protecting $2 million than I am, have at it.
Have a great old time.
There's already intensity between the two, and it's just that pure delivery that Billy Bob Thornton brings.
Oh, yeah. No, he's perfect in this.
So that's when he eventually decides to let Vic have the money, and he's like, well, we didn't discuss this. And he's like, okay, well, are we done discussing it now? So Vic reminds him to keep calm, act natural, and, they'll be home free in a few hours. So Charlie goes into where he is staying, and that is when we see him later pull up to... Oh, excuse me, I'm off my train of thought here.
What the hell, David?
My apologies. So we see him pull up to the exterior of a strip club called the Sweet Cage. And inside, we see a woman dancing topless who has a black eye. We see a man watching in the crowd who is noticing that one of the other gentlemen in the club is getting a little handsy with the dancer. So he gets up from his table, tackles the guy. And the bouncer named Sydney comes out, getting ready to beat him up. But then the dancer, Charlie, goes over him, and she's like, no, he's protecting me. And that's when the guy says, I love you.
Well, for the record, he doesn't go over to beat him up. He goes over to beat the shit out of him with a stick while he's on the ground.
With a bat thing, yeah.
With like a pipe or something. So he had already knocked him down, but now he was about to friggin' whoop his ass.
Yeah. So that's when we meet Sydney, the bartender, and that's when Charlie greets Sydney, who informs him that Rusty was the woman dancing, and that her boyfriend, who is a shitbag, is the guy that beat her up, and he can't wait for him to come into the club because he's going to break his fingers.
The guitarist.
So that's when we also meet the owner of the club, who's Renata, who knows Charlie. Charlie requests a drink with an umbrella, something with pineapple, something with rum, and Renata's like, what's going on with you? You seem pretty jovial. And that's when he says that he's just made a big deal, even hinting, and she hints that, well, if he's rich, they could run away together, and what a dream that would be, leaving Wichita Falls.
Ooh.
So she adds, first of the month, new dancing is actually going to be illegal in the state, and that the mob boss, Bill Gerard, won't be making it any easier for her, so she's already having some struggles with the beginning of the year coming.
Ah, yes. Well, you have to convert the place into a woman's zoo then.
So Charlie offers...
You don't know about the woman's zoo, do you?
I do not.
There was a strip club, I want to say it was in St. Louis, that they were no longer allowed to have full nude.
I do know about this.
Yeah, they were no longer allowed to have full nude dancers where alcohol was served.
Yep,
which is still a law in a lot of places. So they built a club, a bar with a glass wall. And on the other side was a separate business, which was an independent women's aerobic studio.
Oh, God.
So you could drink your booze, and the women would serve you and all that, and then they would go into that studio, and then they would take off their clothes and dance. And when it was first described to me, I was like, that is so bizarre. And then literally they're like, it's just the women's zoo. Because there's a big glass, so you just go there to stare at women through a plate of glass.
I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
So Charlie offers to help her Charlie offers to help her if she hands over a photo of Councilman Williams, which apparently has him in a tough position, and she reminds him that Vic has that photo, and he won't hand it over because she's asked. But if he could get it, it would be the best Christmas gift he could give her, and she'd have to give him something very special in return.
I wonder what that could be. I assume it's one of those turtle doves.
It's got to be.
I have one.
Yeah,
you have one. And as long as we each have a turtle dove, we'll always be friends.
Turtle doves.
Turtle dove.
So she goes to leave, and Charlie takes a sip of his drink. He says it's awful and tells Sydney to get him a beer. Charlie then goes to the bathroom and is taking a piss. And as he was reading on the wall, there's a graffiti that says, "As Wichita falls, so falls Wichita Falls."
You know what also is a sentence?
What's that?
Buffalo, 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 buffalo.
That is a sentence.
But anyway, no, I like how many times Falls is in there. Just maybe.
So Charlie comes out of the bathroom to see a man at the bar asking Sydney about seeing Charlie or Vic that day. And Sydney tells him no. And he's like, well, have they been through? And he's like, well, man, it's Christmas. And he's like, yeah, Christmas. So we see the guy's name is Roy, and he goes to the bathroom commenting on the graffiti, even commenting that that's the stupidest shit he's ever read. Why would some asshole write that? So that's when Charlie leaves and makes a call to Vic, telling him that Roy Gellis is in town and he's looking for them. Vic says it's nothing to worry about, and he reminds him to stick to the plan that they'll meet at the Velvet Touch around 1 a.m. Charlie is also on the road driving, which is now getting slick because of the ice, and he's also having a sip. Vic tells him the roads are bad, but the rain is due to stop by midnight, and by 5 a.m. they'll eat a nice leisurely breakfast at the airport, and then they'll fly to some place where it's fucking illegal to rain.
So before we continue,
yes,
Double D.
Yes, sir.
Hold on. First, I have to cough.
Rude.
I should have coughed right on you. I don't know why I used my arm like a dummy. What is the most interesting bathroom graffiti that you have ever seen?
Oh, God. It probably would have been at Blind Bob's in Dayton, and it was Careless Pisper, I'm never going to piss again.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I like that.
So most of the time, the graffiti I would find was at rest areas and things like that, because I was traveling very young.
Yeah.
By the time I was 18, I was driving all over the country.
Yeah.
So I don't remember a ton of them, but there was one, and all it said in plain black letters, and the worst part was it was the only graffiti in the whole stall. It just said, "I'm still here."
My God. That's haunting.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
The piss comes out real fast.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, real fast when you read that.
I bet.
Yeah. And of course you'd have the other ones like the "Here I sit," dearly departed or whatever.
Paid to poop and only farted.
But one of my favorite things to do when I was a young man was I used to always keep a Sharpie. And I would never graffiti. I'm being serious. This is not one of those cute, like I would never do this, but if I did. But whenever I found graffiti, I would add to it with the hope, I'm sure never going to happen.
Yeah.
That the person who wrote the graffiti would come back
and see it.
Because I wouldn't like cross it out or write like, you're dumb or no. I would change the point of it.
Oh God.
Like I remember one thing said like, I think it literally said like vote for Bush, and I crossed out, wrote Kerry. Which I just thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
But my favorite was anytime I saw something that was like Tom loves Tina, I would cross out Tina and write like Beverly. And I always like to imagine that like Tom would come back to that bathroom, sit down to take a dump, and then see that and be like, what the hell? Beverly and I are just friends, and then you just like start scraping them.
Did you ever see the SNL sketch where they were talking about taking their city back because it had been overwritten with graffiti? So they got professional artists to match their graffiti and put like "eats it" like under the tags and like sucks and everything.
That's pretty funny.
It's pretty great.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
There were also a lot of funny things, like people would write really hateful shit, and then somebody would like write an arrow and just go like, "This guy is a stupid fuck." Like I saw a lot of that too, because I was on some. It was mostly on Interstate 70. There were all these like really podunk, and it was the worst part. I should tell you before we move on was the one that said "I'm still here." I was like 3:30 in the morning.
Oh hell no!
3:30 in the morning. I think I was in Pennsylvania, and I just gingerly walked past the closed Sbarro.
Yeah.
Got in the bathroom, went, "Hey, it's not too dirty in here," sat down, and then looked at the door in front of me and it just said, "I'm still here." And I was like,
God. Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
Oh, the worst part was, I don't know if you've ever driven interstate, it wouldn't have been Interstate 70, it would have been 76, it would have been the PA Turnpike. Have you ever driven the PA Turnpike?
No.
So there aren't rest areas, there are service plazas.
Okay.
So it's a rest area with restaurants and gas station, but the restaurants all close.
Yeah.
Some of them may stay open, and the gas station's open all night.
Yeah.
So after that, I'm all creeped out, middle of the night. I'm like 19 years old. I go back to my car, get in, and then I turn the car on, and I'm like, oh, right. I need gas too.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like really low.
Yeah.
So now I'm driving across to the other side of the parking lot, pulling up to the pump, and the entire time I'm pumping, I am looking around.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking is like, as I'm pulling up to the pump and I'm getting gas, I'm like, I'm the guy who made the stupid choice in the horror movie. Gonna die.
Yep.
Gonna die now.
Yep.
And good stuff.
That sounds like good stuff.
Anyway.
So Charlie gets flashed by a cruiser and he tries to stop the car, but of course with the ice coming down, he slides a bit, the car turns a bit, and the cop who pulls him over goes by Officer Tyler. He knows Charlie, knows of him, and he knows that he's in with Bill Gerard because we're going to meet Tyler a couple times in the movie, and every time he basically says, hey, put in a good word with me with Mr. Gerard. So I think he knows the dealings of Bill.
Huh.
Crazy, right? So Charlie makes his way then over to the club, and that is when he goes into the Teaso-Rama, and there's a dancer there that's complaining that it's Christmas and she's got to work and she doesn't want to pay for the stage rental. So Charlie offers to pay for the rental, then goes into Vic's safe and retrieves the photo of Councilman Williams, which is him having sex, and he is caught dead on camera, basically.
Yeah, he's in what we would call in show business
a
compromising position.
I would say so.
Or what we would call in the podcasting business, fucking a prostitute.
Yes, he is, who does not look interested at all.
And is not his wife.
No.
Although I like the way I did that.
Yep.
I labeled it a prostitute and then said, and not his
wife. So Charlie comes out of Vic's office to find that Roy is also there looking. Charlie leaves and goes to find Vic at a restaurant, advising him that Roy is visiting the club as well, and Vic thinks that Charlie's losing it. He even starts to question if he made a mistake of making him his partner, and Vic reminds him that he gave him the balls to pull off the idea. Charlie tells him not to poke, because as Vic does that, he pokes him, and he's like, did I make the wrong mistake of my partner? And he's like, don't poke. So
don't poke.
That is when Vic gets a call, and he repeats, I know that too, and then hangs up. So that's when Charlie asks who that was, and Vic is kind of put off by it, and he's like, well, if it's any of your fucking business, like, that was my wife. And he's like, oh, is that you just had dinner with? And he's like, no, she's on the Subway diet. She eats like, several footlongs at lunch, and then a couple more at dinner. She's good.
I love Billy Bob's just deflated I'm married to a fat woman routine kills me.
So Vic reminds him of the 1 a.m. rendezvous, and Charlie tries to ask about the loot location, but right as he's doing this, one of the maitre d's comes over asking him if he would be willing to help him with his friend Peter, who is heavily intoxicated. Peter, of course, played by the great Oliver Platt.
Heavily intoxicated, you say?
Heavily intoxicated.
I think he's just charming.
Just jovial and full of jolliness. So Charlie is seen by Peter, who wishes him a Merry Christmas, but it's actually a ho, 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 mofo.
Oliver Platt is Excelsior in this film. I really love him in this movie.
He also drunkenly announces Charlie as the best mob lawyer to everyone that's in the bar as well.
Yeah.
Which is not the first time that he does, or the only time.
Volunteer that information.
So Charlie asks what Peter is doing here, and basically he says he's trying to get laid, and that's when he reminds him that he can do that at home, and that's when we also find out that Peter is now married to Charlie's ex-wife, Sarah Beth.
Not awkward.
Not awkward at all.
No.
And they even go start to reminisce a little bit about him stealing Charlie's wife, and then how they now have their own issues as well. Charlie gets calls back over to the sweet cage, passing the message over to Sydney that he has a gift for Renata, and he says that tell Renata that he'll be on his way. That's when Sydney tells him Renata's not there yet, but she should be back soon. After hanging up, Councilman Williams, of all people, comes up to Charlie, even asking about the photo and stating that he knows that Vic Kavanaugh has it and that he's offered handsomely to get it back several times, but Vic will just not accept. And what would it take for Charlie to pass that photo over?
Well, at the time, the holidays are a time of forgiveness.
Yes.
But not that much.
Not that much forgiveness.
Yeah.
Charlie even asked him, if he's offering some amount, what would it be? And he's like, it'd be 5 figures. A low 5 figures. And that's when Charlie states that photo might be closer than he realizes, and he wishes him a Merry Christmas. So Charlie goes to leave and takes Peter with him to drop him off at home. The two stand outside the front of Sarah Beth's grandparents' house, and they're looking at the family having a nice Christmas dinner.
What a beautiful wasp family.
And fucking Peter makes the comment of, that's my chair in there, but I can't fill it. And Charlie looks at him and says, don't worry, bud, I couldn't either.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, I never could either.
So Charlie goes so the two stand outside looking in for a second, and that's when Peter takes the opportunity to tell him the last year that they were married that Peter was having an affair with Sarah Beth. And that's when Charlie makes the comment of, I'm not upset, but that does make me wonder. And he's like, wonder what? Who she's fucking now.
I love that exchange because I hadn't seen the movie in a little while.
Yeah.
And every time I watch that scene, I think he's going to sock him.
Yeah. Because that would be what you'd be used to. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love him just going, just makes me wonder who she's fucking now, is so much meaner.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you just hit the poor guy? God.
So Peter walks into Sarah Beth's grandparents' house saying, ho, 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 Merry fucking Christmas. Even saying that he brought a ghost of Christmas past with him as Charlie comes out saying hi to Sarah Beth. Peter wastes no time at all making a jackass of himself and going right to the turkey dinner, ripping a leg violently off of the bird.
The cracking sound. So, one of my favorite things about this movie.
Yeah.
So you're going to notice as we describe the film that overall it's relatively simple and straightforward what's going on.
Yeah.
But the way everything is done, very memorable.
Absolutely.
The way he rocks this friggin' turkey leg off is so good. But what's even better, not to jump ahead too far, is at one point as he's having an argument and his wife is leaving, he's shaking a turkey leg at her, saying stuff. The sound, they put in the sound of like the skin
meat,
flopping around on the turkey leg while he's sitting there all dry. He's like, and you hear it going.
Yep. So good.
Well, that's the exact sound. You're welcome, everyone with headphones in.
So Peter gets insulted by his father-in-law, who tells him that he's a loser, and he goes upstairs. That's when, as Enrique said, Peter just lays into basically the whole family. Charlie even gets grilled by his son, Spencer, asking about like their Christmas presents, while his daughter, Melissa, is like hugging on him, being like, it's good to see you, Daddy, and everything. So he has a point with his family. His son hates him. His daughter loves him.
Yeah. Well, his daughter is also the youngest. And that's often how that works.
Yes. So that's when they are eventually asked to leave and told to take Peter home because the family is going to be staying with the grandparents tonight. So Peter's going to have the house to himself on Christmas.
Oh, that's the sign of a healthy marriage.
So healthy. So they leave, and Peter asks about one more drink right before Peter chucks the turkey leg at the window of the house.
Every scene with Oliver Platt makes me so happy in this movie.
So good. So Charlie agrees just one more drink and then they'll go home. So in the car, Peter tells him that his daughter really misses him. And that's when Charlie is like, yeah, but Spencer hates me. And he's like, hey, man, you got to give it time. They're in a tough position right now. So they return to the restaurant bar from before, and the bartender says she's closed, but she'll give them one each on the house, but they got to drink it and go because she doesn't want to open her register again.
How nice of her.
Peter starts making comments at her, and that is when he does not realize that her boyfriend is at the end of the bar, reading a newspaper, waiting for her to be done. And even
because
Charlie,
if he knew, he would be so
stop.
respectful.
Oh, yeah,
for sure.
And I mean, he's saying things along the lines of that she's fine, and that he's going to be thinking about her tonight because this drink is going to take him to the perfect state of drunkenness where he's going to go home and imagine her wearing her necklace and nothing else.
He is a class act.
He's a class act. So that's when Charlie takes this opportunity to call back to the sweet cage. He finds out Renata is not back yet, but that's when Sydney is on the phone and tells him that you're not going to believe who just walked in. And Charlie's like, not Roy Gellis, Bill Gerard. And he's like, no, not Bill. He's like, that asshole who hit Rusty from earlier. I'm going to go break his fucking hand.
I really love the bar manager.
Oh, Sydney's awesome.
He's great.
He's so good. So that's when he tells him that Renata's not back yet, but she should be soon, and that to bring over what he needs to bring over. So that's when Charlie returns to the bar as Peter is continuing to harass the bartender. Charlie begs him to stop multiple times, even being like, I know I'm not your lawyer, but if I was your lawyer, this is the time that you shut up.
Yeah.
Because the boyfriend at the end of the bar is not having it, and that's when Peter decides to push it way too far by basically telling the boyfriend that if he doesn't get laid tonight, it's his fault because he could have a campus crusade of conolingus, which sends him over the side. And the next scene, we see that Peter is being dragged out of the bar by the boyfriend, literally on the ground. And he's like, this is a nonviolent protest. I'm not leaving. He's being dragged out. And then as Peter goes to stand up, the boyfriend kicks him right in the balls.
Well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, so the boyfriend goes back inside. Charlie helps him to the car, only for Peter to repay him by vomiting on him and the car.
I mean, have you vomited on somebody's car?
On the car? No.
In the car?
In the car? No. Outside of a car? Yes. And on a kid's bicycle once. This is early drunk David.
I didn't think it was Tuesday.
Yeah, no. But this is like 19 or 18, 19-year-old David. Have I not told this story about
I don't think
the night
so.
that I ruined my new iPod?
I don't know if you've told it on the show.
Okay.
But I just want to mention, for the record, before you tell this,
Yes.
that what basically just happened is I asked, "Hey, David, have you ever ran a stop sign?"
Yeah.
And you were like, well, no. I mean, I rolled through a red light once and I killed a guy.
So
Go on, Dave.
it was probably October of 2010 when this happened, and I had been invited to a friend's house they were older than me. I think she might have been out of high school at that point, or it was her senior year. I can't remember which. And I had been invited to a party at her house. Then the party moved over down the street to her friend's house because her mom was out of town. So we had a great time deciding to play beer pong with Bacardi.
And that was an exchange student named Bacardi.
So we were using Bacardi Hurricane as the cups and everything. There may have been some smoking going on as well. It gets a little blurry around this point, but I want to add at this point in the story that I had just bought a new 120 gigabyte iPod. I had gotten it from a guy on Craigslist. My dad had rode out with me to get it because my iPod had died. So I had just gotten this new iPod, hadn't even had it maybe a day or two. And I had taken it with me to the party because I usually carried my iPod with me at that point. So long story short, I've had several drinks by this point, and again, I'm young at this point. I haven't really been drinking much.
You said 19?
It would have been, I would have been 17 or 8. No, wait a minute. Let me think for a second. If this is, no, this is probably more 2008, I bet, actually. So I was probably 16, 17.
God, I am such a lame-o. I was drinking and smoking when you were a little kid.
And also, for the record, too, I believe I had snuck out. This is at the point where I had been sneaking out my window because I'd cut my screen perfectly like a doggy door to go in and out of the house. I didn't do it a lot. I only did it like 3 times that I can think of specifically.
Do your parents know that?
Oh, they do now. We've shared these stories. And again, it's going to be on this podcast now forever.
Look, this is the difference.
Oh, boy.
My mother.
Yes.
Loved that woman. Kind-hearted.
She's wonderful.
Would have never paddled me ever. If tomorrow I went to her and told her that, she would whack me in the face and I would then be told to thank her.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. The story gets worse. You ready?
Maybe if you thought La Llorona was waiting for you outside your house, you wouldn't do such a thing.
That is fair, yeah. So the night has progressed by this point. I'm absolutely feeling no pain. And I remember I was also watching beer pong by this point, like I'm out of the game just watching it. And what I recall is that in my drunken stupor high mind, I started grabbing the cups off the table and emptying them in the sink that was in the basement. So they decided to put me to bed. Or no, they actually tried to get me to walk back to Anna's house at first. But
then they were like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Give him his car keys.
So I'm helped back over. I get a couple feet down and then I completely just meet the pavement. Like I had a scrape like blood like right across here and they're like, okay, let's just get him back inside. So as they're walking me back, her brother's bicycle is off to the side and I lost my cookies on his bike. Now, like not on the seat or anything, just mainly like on the tire and frame area. So that's when they're like, okay, we're going to go put him to bed. So they take me back downstairs, they put me to bed, and again, by this point I have, my clothes are on, my pants are on, my iPod is in the pocket. Some point in the night or through the night, I would wake up, vomit, and then fall back into the bed.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. So morning comes, and the party has obviously died down at this point, so I go out, and her brother is sitting in the basement, and I'm like, hey, you didn't hear this from me, but I think somebody puked in there. And I just left the house, walked back to Anna's house, and, they're like, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I don't feel that great. And they're like, okay, well, we'll get you home. So I've got this scrape and dried blood right here.
Right.
And by this point, it's like 7 or 8 in the morning. So I've got like maybe an hour before my parents are going to notice that I'm not at the house. So they get me back home. I had this set up to where I put my game chair against the back wall so that I could grab onto it through the window and pull myself through because it was one of those that like swiveled. So
God.
I climb back in, I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, okay, like we're home free. And I remember hooking my iPod up to the charger and just seeing a white screen, but being like, oh, it's probably fine, not worrying about it. And I remember just laying in bed being like, I feel like absolute fucking garbage. So
that's strange. You wouldn't think so.
I'm going to go take a bath. So I go into the bathroom, I draw a bath, and I had fallen asleep in the bath a couple times too. Like, you want to talk about two things of danger in
You
one
want
night.
to talk about how did you make it to adulthood?
So, long story short, I immediately, like an hour later, get a text from Anna, and she's like, "Did you fucking puke in their house?" And I was like, "I think I did. Like, I don't know." Like, and like just goes off on me. And then the person whose house I was staying at, the brother, texts me, and he's just like, "You're an asshole. Like, don't even think about coming back here for a while." Blah blah blah. Like, no, I deserved all of it. So then I go to look at my iPod, and it is completely sizzling and white screened. And the vomit got soaked up into the iPod. So I had a brand new refurbished iPod for about a day and a half, and then ruined it because of drunken shenanigans.
If it makes you feel any better,
Yeah,
I got nothing.
yeah, I don't blame you.
Good luck with that.
It took me about 2 months to patch up things to where I could actually hang out with them again. Like, I actually had to write like a handwritten apology letter.
You know what I've learned?
What have you learned
From allowing you the occasional personal anecdote on this program?
What's that?
You don't need a podcast, David. You need a priest.
No, I'm good on those.
No, you need a priest.
No, I'm good on those.
Because anybody else will tell the police. Man.
So yeah, that was the night that I threw up on a kid's bike.
The night the reindeer died.
The night the reindeer died.
All right. Anyway, let's try to salvage your relationship with the listeners.
So anyway, at this point, we are now back at Peter's house, and that's when he is out front of his house, and he's having Charlie help him by lifting him up and down because the kick to his balls makes him think that one of his testicles has gone up into his body.
Yes, ascended.
So as his testicle has believed to be ascended, he is picking. Charlie is picking him up over and over again, dropping him down, and that's when Officer Tyler and his partner drive past, and that's when he's like, "Hey, if you're trying to rob him, you got to flip him the other way and shake him up and down." And so he drives past. Eventually, Charlie gets Peter home, helping him inside as Peter comments on, "Hey, man, this used to be your house. Remember that?" So as they get into the doorway, Peter falls down with his pants around his ankles, and Charlie takes a few to look around the old house and even pours himself a drink, looking at a picture of Sarah Beth and the nice Mercedes that she was gifted some years ago.
Oh, how sweet.
So then Charlie goes into the garage, taking the Mercedes and leaving a sign with Peter that says, "Borrowing Sarah Beth's car, mine smells like vomit for some reason."
I love that. It literally says for some reason.
Yeah. So he returns to the sweet cage where we find Sydney keeping his word, breaking the fingers of the dickhead boyfriend in the parking lot and smiling happily while he does it.
But the way it's depicted is as the car is pulling up, he's just dutifully sitting there on the ground with the guy, breaking his fingers while the stripper and her new beau
Ronnie,
are watching.
Yeah.
Like he's just doing it. Like it's not, it doesn't even come off as like a crime of passion. He's just like, well, gotta break his fingers now.
So Rusty introduces Charlie to Ronnie and tells him how they went to high school together and how he always had a crush on her. And guess what? They're getting married.
What?
So even Sydney goes back to Ronnie, adding to use the night as a reminder. And he basically says, don't touch her again anytime you feel to. Just remember that guy right there. So police siren starts to ring out and Charlie advises Sydney to get out of here. Sydney tells him, yeah, it's probably a good idea. I'm taking my kids to Six Flags tomorrow. Renata's going to be pissed I'm leaving early. And Charlie says, don't worry. I think what I've got's going to make her happy. So Charlie goes inside, giving Renata the picture, who is very grateful, actually commenting that she is fucking ecstatic. And
it's like a fairy tale.
She even questions what he wants in return, and Charlie states nothing. And she says, that's odd, Charlie, because she's already been hearing some odd things about him tonight, like renting stages, buying drinks. And that's when she puts together that he's planning to leave town. And she even asked if he's been skimming the till, and he states that would be crazy to steal from Bill Gerard. So she sits on his lap as they share a kiss, and she tells him to give her 45 minutes to close up and meet her at her apartment.
Ooh la la.
She also adds that Vic has passed the message to her, and that it was that he was right about someone looking for them, and to meet him at the Velvet Touch immediately.
And this is where things
take a turn.
Quite a turn.
So Charlie drives over to the place, finding it empty, but he wanders through the back of the strip club into the back room, making a discovery of a severed finger in the back of the club in a vise.
Yeah, it doesn't look like something very Christmassy
No.
happen there.
So Charlie speeds out of the club as the rain is really coming down now. He stops on a bridge and parks the car, vomiting over the side of the bridge as Officer Tyler pulls up, startling him. Charlie runs face first into a street sign.
We call that pulling a David on the side of the road, by the way.
Shut the hell up. Running face first into a street sign with a very loud whack.
it startled me, even though I saw him, his head hit, I thought it was a gunshot. It was so loud.
So Officer Tyler reminds him to put in a good word with Bill Gerard, and he also tells him that he should get home safe and probably best not to come back out tonight.
Yeah, probably not. Good idea.
We also forgot to mention that he had picked up on Charlie's flask in the cup holder and even told him, like, hey, maybe take it easy with that. So he knows he's been drinking.
He's trying to be cool.
Yeah. So Charlie finishes the drive over to Vic's house, pulling up with the headlights off. Suddenly, inside the house, we see a flash and we hear a shot ring out. Charlie then parks the car and gets out, sneaking up to the house, finding another car out front, which belongs to Roy Gellis, as he confirms by getting the ID out of the car.
Yeah, things are... they're escalating fast.
So he quickly makes a call to Renata, confessing that they have been skimming and he has the money, and then he thinks Roy just killed Vic and offers to leave town, taking her with her. And that's when Renata asks about the money, and Charlie says, well, since Vic had it, and since Roy just probably killed Vic, Roy probably has the money.
I mean, that is science.
So Renata tells him to kill Roy, take the money back so they can run away together. So he hangs up and goes into the house. Inside the house, we see a cigarette remain burning in an ashtray as the chipmunks play over the speakers of the house. Charlie sneaks around, coming into a room where the Christmas tree is and seeing a woman in front of the tree. He recognizes her as Vic's wife, Gladys, but he soon realizes that she has been shot in the head and is dead. But
she's somehow just kind of on her crouched on her knees, prone kind of in front of the Christmas tree.
The reveal of it with the blood just dripping on the Christmas presents.
Oh, yeah.
So
no, it's
good.
terrifying.
So Vic tells him, sweet gesture, but she's dead, Charlie. And he tells Charlie that Roy killed Gladys because Vic didn't tell him where the money is, also revealing that Roy is now stuffed into a trunk in the garage of Vic's house.
Yeah, but not stuffed into a trunk the way you would normally expect it. He is alive.
John Candy and Steve Martin could be carrying him in that scene in Planes, Trains.
It's true. What an emotional scene.
So that's when Vic taunts him and Roy tells him to come closer. Vic walks over, putting his ear to the trunk, and bullets start ringing through. And that's when Vic's shocked because he's like, well, damn, I took his gun away. I guess he had another one. And Charlie's like, I guess so.
Well, and luckily for them, he can only shoot straight up.
Yeah.
Because he's like crammed in there.
Yeah.
So they're not really in much danger except for the fact that they were scared shitless because they were about to be over top of the trunk to load it into a car.
So Roy recognizes Charlie's voice and he tells him that he's going to kill him when he gets out of there. And Vic's like, well, that's pretty fucking optimistic because you're never getting out of that trunk.
Yeah. This whole sequence, the exchange is so good. How he's like, is that you there? I'm going to kill you when I get out of this thing. Let me out. Well, you just said you were going to kill me.
I didn't mean it.
I love it. It's that's the best part is it's that way too. It's like silence. I didn't mean it.
So Charlie and Vic go to work trying to get the trunk into Vic's Lincoln, but the trunk won't fit in the back. Charlie then offers the Mercedes, and Roy smarts off at Vic, causing Vic to grab a golf club, going to town on the trunk at this point.
Yeah.
And that's when Charlie warns him to not beat it too much or the lock might spring. So Charlie asks why did he put him in the trunk, and Vic reveals he has plans to drop him into the Lake Boscombe, shouting to Roy that he can't wait to hear him and watch him drown.
I mean, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
So Charlie pulls the Mercedes in as Vic brings Gladys's body out wrapped in plastic, stuffing it into the trunk and commenting on how she never did anything right. And that's when they load Roy into the back seat, and Vic comments on the spaciousness of the car, even requesting the keys from Charlie. And Charlie asks, well, whose thumb is this? And that's when Vic is like, hey, Roy, Charlie brought your thumb. So Charlie and Vic start back out on the road, driving to the lake, and Roy tries to warn Charlie not to trust Vic and that when he's done helping him with the trunk, he's going to kill him. Vic also gives Charlie hell for the suspicion of his niceness, even at Christmas time, and Roy questions what kind of a man shoots his own wife in the back of the head on Christmas Eve. Vic then tries to argue that Charlie already knows that Roy killed her, and that's when Roy states that Bill Gerard already knows what they've done. Why would he kill Gladys?
His claim was he overestimated how much I gave a shit about my wife.
Yeah.
But it's pretty clear that homie killed his wife.
Yeah. So Vic warns him that he'll shoot both sides of the trunk because he doesn't remember what side he put his head in, and ends up doing so as Roy's comments immediately stop. He takes the thumb from Charlie, throwing it out the window, and the two arrive at the lake, and Vic asks Charlie for help with the trunk. So they quickly remove it and scoot it down the steps, and when I say scoot, the trunk just falls out of their hands and goes down the steps.
Yeah, it's bumpy ride.
Yeah, to the dock, and Charlie is noticeably nervous and suspicious of Vic, even peeking at the gun in his waistband, which Vic does take out as they go to move the trunk. Vic asks for help before the end of the dock, and that's when Charlie states that he would rather push, putting Vic towards the back of the lake. So they begin to push the trunk as the dock breaks in a couple spots as they're going by, but they get the trunk to the end as Vic holds up his gun, and Vic has Charlie stand the trunk up. Suddenly, 2 more shots ring out from inside the trunk, hitting Vic. As blood begins to pour from a wound, the trunk opens as Roy asks for help from Charlie to get out of the trunk. Roy then gets out of the trunk, and Vic tells him, "Hey, Roy, that's great, but your gun's empty." Roy goes to fire, and the gun is empty, making the click, and that's when Vic quickly shoots him as Roy stands still, and Vic's like, "Roy, you're dead. Fucking die already."
That's a great moment, because he's just standing here with the wound in his chest.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're dead, all right? Like, stop wasting my time.
So that's when Roy falls forward, crashing onto the dock, breaking it completely up as the front falls, sending Vic into the water with the trunk and Roy. Vic is freezing, holding onto the trunk, clutching it, grabbing onto him, and asking Charlie for help. And that's when Charlie tells him no, because he knows now that he was going to kill him when he was done with the job. And that's when he goes, "Fuck you," and starts shooting at him.
Yeah, I have to say, the motto of this film is, to me, is you're not very good at this, are you?
Yeah.
Because he's not very good at this. Because the first time I watched it, my first thought was, why wouldn't you just head back to the car and be like, "I'm going to get a rope,"
Yeah.
and then let him drown?
Yeah.
But no, a guy with a gun who's about to drown, you say it when he could like shoot toward you. So Cusack has to like get down low and hunch while he's firing his gun desperately, because not only is he freezing to death, but he can't swim.
He can't swim,
So there's no way he's going to survive this. But I found that very funny. It's
So
like,
good.
why would you be where he can see you when he has a gun
Yeah.
to tell him that? You're not very good at this, are you?
So Charlie tells him, "Fuck you too," and Vic asks for help, throwing the gun away. Vic offers to tell him where the money is, and Charlie's like, "I already know the money, like it's in the car." And Vic denies, "No, it's not in the car," but Charlie tells him, "So long, Vic." So Vic is freezing in the water at this point, trying to stay afloat on the trunk, and he calls to Charlie, begging him, even going into the Lord's Prayer at this point. So suddenly he starts to hear footsteps back on the dock as Vic calls to Charlie, and he says, like, "You're a good man, Charlie. I knew you'd come back." And Charlie says, "Oh, I didn't want you to die alone," as he dumps Gladys's body down the dock right onto him.
It's like a fairy tale.
So Vic goes into the water even further, and Charlie goes back to the car, finding the bags of Vic's full of clothes and the money not there. He returns to the dock, calling to Vic, but Vic by this point has drowned with Gladys on top of him.
Second time,
Yeah.
I had the thought, you're not very good at this, are you?
So that's when Charlie leaves the lake, stopping at a gas station. He refreshes himself in the bathroom, enjoying a cigarette. He grabs a beer from the cooler and even some cheap toys as he comments to the cashier that they're stocking stuffers. And the cashier smarts off at him, and he's like, "Big spender." And Charlie goes, "Do you have any kids?" Cashier goes, "No." And he goes, "Shut the fuck up."
Yeah, that's a great moment. Yeah, then shut the fuck up and bag it.
So that's when he calls over to Renata, telling her that Vic is dead along with Roy. She tells him to come to the sweet cage, but Charlie states he doesn't have the money. And Renata tells him money isn't everything, and if he's really in love with her, it shouldn't be an issue. So he confirms that he's coming over as we cut back to Renata, seeing that someone is holding a gun at her as she hangs up the phone.
Aww.
So Charlie returns to his old house, dropping off the gas station gifts under the Christmas tree, which that's when he sees that Peter is still on the couch. And Peter wakes up asking Charlie to take him with, stating he can't do this life anymore. And that's when Charlie tells him to get some rest. And he also tells him that he's in big fucking trouble. Like he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's in a serious situation. And Peter says that's great because they can go out in a blaze of glory like men. And then he quickly falls asleep and starts snoring.
Putting the gas station toys under the tree, saddest damn thing I've ever seen.
So still in the Mercedes, Charlie returns to the sweet cage, taking notice of the other car and seeing a Top Dog license plate, dog spelled D-A-W-G.
Of course.
Confirming that the car does belong to Bill Gerard. He enters the sweet cage, which is quiet, and he sneaks back to Renata's office, and he sees that she is basically laying lifeless with her head on her desk. But as his footsteps go forward, they wake her up, and that's when he's like, "Okay, I think Bill Gerard here, come on." And that's when Renata shows him that she is taped to the chair with Christmas tape.
It's very festive, and I
Yes.
like that.
So Bill is here. We hear him in the bathroom, and Charlie realizes his gun is empty. He's like, "Do you have any bullets for this?" And that's when Renata tells him to get the shotgun behind the bar. So Bill comes in commenting on Wichita Falls, so Falls, Wichita Falls. And he says he likes that. And he also tells her that he's going to give Charlie a few more minutes, and then he'll just assume that he ran off and left his pecker to be, basically.
Yeah, I guess that means his head beat out his pecker.
So Renata says that won't be enough time, and that's when Bill gets in her face and tells her too bad he should be in Kansas City watching his kids open Christmas presents, but he's stuck here. He then goes into a tirade about how lawyers have a license to steal from everybody, but yet they choose to steal from their friends, which this is a point you brought up.
Yeah, when we were watching it this time, I was like, I get why he's mad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, he's a criminal attorney, but like, as long as all he does is legal service, he's not really committing a crime himself.
No.
So he's making fat stacks of money in a legal way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everybody he works with could go to prison at any time.
Yeah.
That's not a bad gig.
It's not.
But no, just gotta have more. Gotta become a big shot bad guy crook.
And Bill Gerard also played by the amazing Randy Quaid.
Yes, which you should have led with that.
I should have led with that, yes.
Phenomenal
performance.
Randy Quaid casting.
Yeah. So we see Charlie getting the shotgun behind the bar as Renata is questioned about her involvement with the swindle because Bill thinks that she might be in on it. Charlie loads the gun, but outside we see that Officer Tyler has also arrived at the sweet cage. Charlie returns to the office holding a gun on Bill as Bill turns, showing that he also has a gun, and Charlie comments for him to or tells him to drop the gun, but Bill refuses, showing no fear. Bill then comments on how he hasn't pulled the trigger yet because he's not a big man, and that's when Bill comments on how he hasn't, or excuse me, that's when Charlie fires, sending Bill to the ground. So that's when Renata tells him to get his gun, as the shotgun is full of birdshot. Bill suddenly then gets stabbed Bill suddenly stabs Charlie in the foot, telling him, "Oh, you just really shit the nest now."
And the depiction of his foot stabbed is really upsetting because as all this action is happening, he's trying to get the knife out of his foot and his face is gone pale and he looks like he's about to pass out or vomit, which is very accurate. And I really liked it.
And Bill walks over Bill walks over and steps on it as he's trying to finagle it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when Officer Tyler comes in and he's like, "Mr. Gerard, what are you doing here?" Bill shoots him dead in the head.
Yeah, just without a hesitation.
So Renata, cutting herself free because Charlie had started cutting her free when he shot Bill, attacks Bill, and Charlie tries to regain his composure. Bill throws her down to the couch as he comments on why did he even bother with Kansas, taking a look at his face, adding that now he's also been disfigured by a whiskey dick lawyer.
And for those of you not familiar, and thinking, well, if he lives in Kansas City, why is he bitching about Kansas? That's KC Mo.
Yeah.
Kansas City, Missouri. KCK or KC Mo. It's KC Mo.
So Bill points his gun at Renata as Charlie places the barrel to the back of Bill's head, blowing it off and spraying Renata with blood.
The way it's done is pretty epic.
Yeah.
Because the barrel's to his back of his head, and he's just like, what does he say to him?
I think he just says Bill.
Oh, yeah, he just says Bill. And then, it just cuts to her, and then bang, and just blood splats
everywhere.
her. And she reacts by going, ew.
Yeah. So Renata showers at the club, and Charlie tries the best to bandage his foot while also taking a couple shots of liquor. Renata even offers him some pain pills, and while she's in the bathroom saying about what a nice guy Charlie is and how he's the best, Charlie notices the bags that Vic had earlier in her closet. As he walks over to the closet, she even comments on how he's the last man standing, and that's when he finds the bags of money. And flashing back, we see that Renata was actually the one at dinner with Vic earlier and also the one who called while Vic was sitting with Charlie.
Yep, all is being revealed.
Renata has been on it the entire time. So Charlie asks her, because the whole movie he's been saying that he has one question for her, but when he goes to ask, he says, I can't think of one. So that's when he asks her, where is she originally from? And Renata asks, why does he keep asking questions? And he states he was just curious. As Renata exits the bathroom, Renata reminds him that it's just them now going in for a kiss, and she tells him that he saved her life and he's a different man. Going in for another kiss, she asks, can he feel it? And he says that he can, as a shot rings out, revealing that he shot Renata, and Renata, also with a straight razor in her hand, nearly cuts Charlie's throat as she falls down dead.
Well, she had already started.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about this reveal is like as she falls down, you see that she had perfectly started this little line cut on his neck with a just straight razor. When she shoots him, she has the nerve to, as she was beginning to kill him, to go, Charlie.
Yeah.
Like, what did it's like, lady, you were murdering him.
Yeah.
You were in the process of murdering him. She's such a great kind of classic femme fatale in this. In fact, multiple times when she talks to him on the phone, they did the little slit of light over her eyes, which really makes her look ethereal and it's a great touch. But yeah, she was clearly in it for her.
Yeah. So we see Charlie driving down the road as he was standing on in the beginning of the film, but now he's got tears in his eyes. He stops the car as he finds Sydney off to the side of the road in a camper, broken down with his kids. He gets out of the camper, gets out of the car, going up to the camper and finding out that it's out of gas. And of course, Sydney is just railing on about his mom.
The strip club guy, in case you forgot. Yeah.
And he, that's when Charlie offers to have gas siphoned out of his car to help them get on their way. So we see Charlie looking out over snowy fields, and Sydney joins him, telling him that he doesn't want him to take this personal, but Charlie is the nicest guy that he knows. And Charlie says that he's really sorry to hear that, but he wishes him well with his family on their Six Flags trip. As he gets back into the camper, Charlie walks behind the camper and goes to write on the back, revealing that he is the man that has been graffitiing as Wichita Falls, so falls Wichita Falls. And that's when Sydney accidentally backs over him as he gets the camper started, knocking Charlie to the ground. The camper drives away, and Charlie sits back up as they drive away, returning to his car. That's when we see Peter pop up from the back seat, waking up from a sleep, and Charlie wishes him a Merry Christmas and says good morning. And that's when he asks, where are they? Or no, he tells him that they're in heaven, and Peter asks, they have pancakes in heaven? And Charlie says, they have everything.
Yeah.
As we start to see them drive down the same road that Sydney is driving down, and that is 2005's The Ice Harvest, my friends.
And how?
Yes.
Man, what a film. What an ending. Although I don't know when you want to talk about those
we'll talk about it now.
endings.
Yeah, so...
there are two very similar alternate
on the Kino
endings
Blu-ray, and
on the
I
Blu-ray.
think on the DVD, too.
I think that it was originally from the DVD because they look like they're standard def.
Yeah. So the first alternate ending picks us up right after he has shot Renata, and it basically goes to the exact same thing of him riding up on the road on Sydney. He gives him the gas. Sydney goes behind the car, and he starts driving, and that's when the camper backs into him. And we see that John Cusack is very hurt at this point, spitting up blood.
Oh, he's dying.
He's dying.
Yeah, he's been crushed by an RV.
Yeah. So he ends up dying as the camera pulls up. We also see him walk off, or his spirit walk off into the field and then fade away. So that was alternate ending number 1.
Yeah, which honestly fit the tone of the film very well.
Yeah. Alternate ending 2 is basically the same, except as he's dying, they flash back to a memory of him, Renata, and Vic, as we basically see that the whole idea was Charlie's the entire time.
Which I love that gag, though. I almost wish that the ending had been he got hit and he falls down and he like hits his head on the ground or whatever, and then we'd have that flashback, but then it would cut back and he'd like woke up and like he didn't die.
Yeah.
I almost wish that was the ending.
It would have been a good ending.
But you know what? I like how uncluttered the final ending is.
No, it absolutely is. So would you like to know some fun things about the film?
Of course, as long as they are really fun, David.
What do you think the budget was?
12.
Estimated at 16.
Okay, a little higher than I was expecting.
Estimated at 16 million. It comes out November 27th of 2005 in theaters, and opening weekend brings in $3,744,000.
I mean, not terrible.
Grossing in the U.S. and Canada, $9 million, and then worldwide box office, $10 million.
Oof.
Yeah, so it was a flop.
Yes.
So it was shot in Carpentersville, Glenview, Highland Park, Marengo, and multiple other places in Illinois. Screenwriter Robert Benton was made aware of the novel after reading a New York Times review of it. Benton got himself a copy of the book and passed it off to Richard Russo, his writing partner, who was blown away by the book. Scott Phillips, the author of the novel, was already receiving offers to option the book for a film in its first month of release.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that happens. A book gets really hot before it's even out.
Yeah. Scott Phillips initially convinced himself that the novel, The Ice Harvest, was unadaptable. Upon reading it again, he felt his book could indeed be adapted.
Do we know how he felt about the film?
Yeah, he actually is on the bonus features. He loves the film.
Oh, good.
Although the novel was set in 1979, Benton and Russo didn't feel this had to be a nostalgia piece and decided to modernize it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phillips set the book at Christmas time because he had been working in a mall, and due to the stress and anxiety he felt with Christmas music endlessly playing in the mall, he thought it was ironic the dark places Christmas songs can take a person despite all their upbeat tempos and lyrics.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah. Harold Ramis took the job after reading the screenplay once. He then decided to read the novel by Phillips to see if anything had been left out for the screenplay that should be included, and found nothing.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, what's his name again? The writer, screenwriter?
Scott Phillips.
No,
Scott Phillips is the novel. Robert Benton and Richard Russo.
He's a hell of a writer. I mean, he wrote Kramer versus Kramer, for fuck's sake. He's a damn good screenwriter.
Yeah. Harold Ramis refers to the film as retro film noir and had toyed with the title Nothing Like Christmas, but decided that The Ice Harvest was the stronger of the two.
Was The Ice Harvest the title of the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Ramis offered the role of Charlie to Bill Murray, but Murray did not return his calls.
They were not speaking at that time. They didn't speak until shortly before his death.
Yeah. They patched things up right then. The weather got so bad during shooting that Harold Ramis was forced to close production for a day, which would have ended his perfect record of never losing a shooting day. It was almost forced, not forced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The name Argolis translates to guile or deceitfulness in German. The line "As Wichita Falls, so falls Wichita Falls" is a title of a Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays album from 1981.
Oh shit!
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Sweet Cage is a defunct restaurant Harold Ramis and his family used to eat at when he was a kid. Its flatware and cutlery were used for the upscale restaurant where Vic was eating.
I love that. I love that it was shot in Illinois.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed.
Monica Bellucci was initially signed to play the character of Renata, but had to back out due to her pregnancy. The lake in the film was not a real lake and was created on a land reclamation project. A 65-foot pier was constructed with a swimming pool dug in the ground at the end and secured with asphalt and a liner. The pool was then filled with water and had melted paraffin put over top of it to give the icy appearance.
It worked great. Very good.
The colors and the lighting of green and blue were selected to blend with the ice theme of the film. And Billy Bob Thornton has a legitimate fear of drowning and told Ramis this upon landing the role and discussing the scene in the film.
How nice of him.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on 2005's The Ice Harvest?
Oh, man. I mean, it is a fun flick. If you love noir movies,
Yeah.
you'll be obsessed with it. If you love, that era of Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack, you're going to love it. It's definitely a rent it.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth a couple bucks to check it out to get the experience of it.
Absolutely.
I do think, as good as it is, I don't think it's really like a necessity for the average movie collector to own it.
Yeah.
But watching it is so worth it, and if it connects with you really well, you'll be so glad that you gave it a chance.
Yeah.
So I am 100% on the rent it camp on that bad boy.
Rent it for me as well. It's a very fun movie with a lot of noir, with noir touches throughout it because the movie is just masterfully shot, masterfully written, masterfully edited. This is one of those underrated Christmas crime movies to a T that you really need to see if you're a fan of that genre.
It's a pretty deep niche genre
Is it?
already. Christmas crime.
Reindeer Games, The Silent Partner, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, this movie, Christmas Rush with Eric Roberts.
I'm not saying that. Oh gosh, Christmas. I want to rewatch Christmas Rush. That's so good. No, but no, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't movies like that. I'm just saying like that's a tight.
It's a very niche spot.
That's a deep one, deep cut.
But no, it's absolutely a rent for me. It's a really underrated flick that I hope a lot more people will get their hands on because it's perfect for this time of year with the Christmas setting for one, but also if you're looking for something, as I said when we reviewed The Long Kiss Goodnight, that's different from Die Hard and all the other action movies, this is a damn good filler.
Oh, goddamn right. Yeah.
So we also like to end the show with a couple of recommendations. I have two this week. The first one being one that I just showed you recently, The Silent Partner from 1978.
Yeah, The Silent Partner.
A timid bank teller anticipates a bank robbery and steals the money for himself before the crook arrives. When the sadistic crook realizes he's been fooled, he tracks down the teller and engages him in a cat and mouse chase for the cash. I will say the synopsis is a little bit more exciting than the film, but it is a good noir.
A good film, but it's paced
slow.
Very slowly.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where like a bunch of character stuff happens that is interesting, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, right, and then also like all the murder stuff.
But you can see John Candy with a perfectly coiffed set of hair.
Handsome man.
The other recommendation I'm going to give is from 1991 and currently available on Prime, One False Move, starring Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton. A small-town police chief awaits the arrival of a gang of killers. This is a really good neo-noir from the 90s. I can't remember the guy that did it. Is it Richard Franklin? I want to say his name is the guy that did Devil in a Blue Dress. This is a movie that I cannot recommend enough. It is a really good crime thriller, but also pretty bleak. So that's your fair warning on that. But Billy Bob Thornton, like it's like one of his first roles. Like and he is an absolute psychopath in it.
Yeah, I want to check it out.
Carl Franklin.
I'm putting that in my watch list right now.
It is fantastic. So what is your recommendation for this week?
I had to think pretty hard.
Okay.
Because we've been talking about what our January picks are going to be, and several of those were going to be my recommendations.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that.
Okay.
So I racked my brain while we were doing the show, and I came up with a brand new movie I just recently watched that you have not seen because you are not a real movie fan. You are a poser.
Oh, God, what is
who
it?
vomits on children's bicycles.
What is
it? It is 2024's Wolves.
Oh, okay.
And that is not wolves. It is wolves. Two single wolves. Directed by John Watts. It is a Apple Plus film, so you can watch it on Apple Plus. It stars George Clooney and Brad Pitt. And I'll give you the description. Two rival fixers cross paths. That's a little misleading.
Okay.
They're not rivals. They didn't know each other existed.
Okay.
In fact, one of the big gags is that they both think they were the only person who could do what they do.
Yeah.
That's kind of the big gag.
Okay.
And then there's one part, it's not a big spoiler, to give you an idea of what it's like.
Yeah.
At one point, Brad Pitt's like, I've got a doctor. I've got a doctor that doesn't say anything. And, but you got to stay in the car because I don't want her to get freaked out.
Yeah.
Because she knows me. And he goes up to the door and she comes out and she's like, I'm not helping you anymore with all this stuff. And he's like, come on, you got it, whatever. And then Clooney just walks and goes, hello, Beth.
Oh my God.
I don't think her name was Beth, but yeah, he's literally just like, hello. And she's like, hello.
I've got to see that.
Margaret is her name.
Okay.
I think. No. It's, it doesn't matter, but June. So wolves. But yeah, to cover up a prominent New York official's misstep, over one explosive night, they have to set aside their petty grievances and their egos to finish the job.
Yeah, I got to see that.
It's a crime drama. It has a lot of twists and turns. It is laugh out loud funny. But I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And while it's not super important to the plot, it is set around Christmas. There are Christmas lights around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it is a lot of fun.
Okay.
Great ending. Pitt and Clooney are at their peak. You can tell that they wanted to bromance for themselves.
Hell yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. Wolves from 2024, available on Apple Plus. That is my recommendation.
Well, would you like to know what we are
know.
talking about next week?
As long as I'm not, I hopefully will be done clearing my throat all the time.
Fair enough,
by
yes.
then. But what is it, Double D?
Well, our show is going to be dropping on Christmas Eve for one.
That is true.
So I thought maybe we should go with the ultimate Christmas Eve thriller and do 2015's Krampus.
Wouldn't it be better to do it on Krampusnacht?
I mean, we could do it on Krampusnacht, but it's past at this point, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. But Krampus is currently available on Max and Peacock, so you can check it out before we talk about it. This is going to be a very fun one. We have a lot of history with this one because not only did we see it opening night, but we also checked out the new 4K, which we're going to be revisiting again, I imagine.
On the new 4K projector.
That is very true.
That thing is crazy.
Do we have any emails, by the way?
I'll double check, but last I saw, no one loves us.
Yes.
Also, we are recording the show ahead because I'm going out of town.
Yes,
so
yes.
So it's only been a few days since the last show. No new emails. We're not loved, but we do love to hear from you guys. You can send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com to find all the information to contact us. We love to hear your movie recommendations, your opinions of films we watched on the show, and really just about anything else. I do appreciate all the listeners who have been sending us fake invoices for Macintosh purchases that are scams, I guess, and that Nigerian prince.
Oh, yeah. Good on that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we would love to hear from you guys as we wrap up the holiday season.
Yes.
And head into cold-blooded January.
That is going to be the theme.
Perhaps.
No, it's going to be the theme.
Okay, fine.
That's going to be a theme.
All right, well, whatever.
All right.
So next week's show, Krampus. Make sure you check it out if you haven't already. I assure you, you will not be disappointed. And if for some reason, somehow Krampus missed you, but you're familiar with the film Trick or Treat.
Yes, Michael Dougherty.
It is the Christmas Trick or Treat.
Yes, it is.
It is so worth your time. Can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to revisit it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear it in Dolby Atmos.
And I will go ahead and give a tease too that if you have not seen the naughty version, the naughty cut, while it doesn't have a lot of violence or anything added to it like people thought it would, there is a lot of great character moments in it that if you are a fan of Krampus, definitely check out that cut of the movie if you can get your hands on it.
Yes.
It's really good. We'll talk about it more next week. Absolutely.
Maybe.
I cannot recommend that cut enough.
Well, with all that being said, thank you guys for checking out Do You Even Movie. If you're listening to us on the podcast feed, make sure you're subscribed. And if you would, we really appreciate a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really does help the show a lot. It helps movie lovers find out that they want to listen to our show.
Yes.
If you're watching us on YouTube, appreciate that as well. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave a like, leave a comment about what you think of the film or any of the films we've talked about, or David's complete lack of moral compass whatsoever.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It ain't great. So until next time, guys, stay warm, watch some movies, and we will see you next Tuesday. Assuming Dave doesn't vomit on the show and ruin it.
No promises.
I'm very well aware.
See y'all.